History is a lie. How was the Duke of Milan, Ludovico Sforza, nicknamed the Moor, described? From The History of the Life and Times of Cardinal Wolsey, published in 1742, Ludovic was immediately carried into France and imprisoned in the castle of La Chaise, where he died about the year 1510. The taking of him gave rise to this proverb in France: he was taken as the Moor, a nickname given him from the blackness of his complexion. This adoration of the Magi painting was created in 1485 by Bresson, an Italian artist active in Milan. Just as we saw in a previous video with the Prince of Brunswick Wolfenbüttel, this painting was commissioned by Ludovico, most likely to commemorate his newly found position of Duke of Milan. We see him depicted wearing a crown as the fictional Moorish king Balthazar, one of the three biblical magi. When hearing Ludovico was nicknamed the Moor, some would think he was actually a direct descendant of the Moors of Spain. But that's conjecture, based on incomplete information. Ludovico Sforza was nicknamed the Moor due to the blackness of his complexion, not the genealogy of the Sforza family, which we simply do not know. Just as the description says, Ludovico was portrayed very dark in complexion. Quite the opposite of how he is shown in Wikipedia. The right image doesn't have a black complexion and doesn't look like a Moor. Another key historical factor identifying Ludovico are the golden spurs seen in the Adoration of the Magi painting. The Knights of the Golden Spur were knights in the Holy Roman Empire. These knights were recognizable from the golden spurs they were allowed to wear once honored into the knighthood. The Dukes of Milan were continuously members of this knighthood, and in 1539, Pope Paul III even granted them the privilege of appointing knights of the order. Now that we know how Ludovico Sforza was described and how he looked, why was he taken away and imprisoned in France? His fate stems from the consequences of his own actions. Ludovico was despised by many for how he came to power and the betrayal of his allies. When Bona Sforza assumed the regency of Milan for her underaged son, Gian Galeazzo Sforza, there was a power struggle. Ludovico Sforza, Gian's uncle, was determined to assume power. This came to fruition in 1480 when Ludovico assumed the regency for his nephew John. As the young Duke Gian grew older, he was nearing the age where he would become the sole ruler of Milan. Ludovico had no intentions in relinquishing power in Milan, and it suggested he ordered the poisoning of the young duke. Gian was unalived in 1494 at the young age of 25. From this time, Ludovico reigned as Duke of Milan. He then allied himself with Maximilian I, Holy Roman Emperor, and fought to expel the French, who were once allies of the Dukes of Milan, from northern Italy. After Louis XII conquered Milan in 1498, Ludovico tried unsuccessfully to retake it 2 years later. He was captured and died in prison. This is why Cardinal Wolsey recounts his demise as, quote, "Such was the fate of this duke, who deserved no better, having usurped the Duchy of Milan from his nephew, whom he poisoned, committed many treacheries against France, and baffled his neighbors, allies, and enemies." End quote. Share your thoughts and knowledge below, and as always, like and share for more hidden history. And that's why we say...